In this session, we're going to go over psychology, and the topic we'll concentrate on is death and dying. So, let's get into it. So, our outline will first do the biological aspects of death, then also do old age theory, which is just Eric Erikson theory, and also the stages in the process of death. Then, last but not the least, we'll do the care of the dying. Okay, so one of the provoking questions we might ask ourselves is, do really patients know when they are dying? Okay, this is an in-between thought. Sometimes you can say yes, patients really know when they are dying, especially in a situation whereby they have been sick for quite a long time, or maybe they have been just being affected by this chronic illness. It could be maybe diabetes, or maybe they have a certain infection which has been affecting them for quite some time. So in that case, they might know that they are really dying, but we can also say no, because sometimes death can come just by sudden impulse, all of the sudden, maybe due to a stroke, or maybe an attack, or sometimes due to an accident. So in that scenario, we can say that some might not know when they are dying because it has just happened by sudden impulse. So we can say sometimes yes, and sometimes patients really do not know when they're dying. And the other thing we need to talk about is how a person who is maybe by the bedside caring for the patient, how do they experience, how are their reactions? So there are really two reactions experienced by a person caring for the death, for a patient, I mean a person caring for the patient. So the two reactions are the gut reaction. So gut reaction is just about the thoughts and the ideas. They're just spontaneous ideas which arises. They're just immediate. It could be some physical or emotional waves, and a person caring for the day for the patient. I mean for the patient could be maybe experience some shock, or maybe they're just fearing the fear of death, yeah. And also they could just experience some sadness or grief because they are seeing this person struggling, or maybe they might be just helpless. So the gut reaction is just about those thoughts and ideas which arise due to uh, seeing the patient, or due to seeing someone who is maybe about to die. So they are not mental, but they're just emotions. But when you're talking about mental reactions, these are now the feelings about their own death. They start now to think about what would happen, or when they will die, or maybe they start thinking about whether they will die in a bad way, maybe an accident, or when the time they'll be dying, if there would be maybe a certain person by their side, or they just try to think about what will happen to them. So that is the mental reaction. So the two type of reactions which a person caring for the patient experience are the gut reactions and also the mental reactions. Now let's look at the biological aspect of death. So as we all know, each and every person on earth will eventually die one or the other day, because death is simply inevitable. We do not know when someone will die, and no one knows really when they will die, but this death is just inevitable, which means no matter how healthy you might try to live or try to maybe protect yourself, but one day each and everyone will meet death. It is very inevitable and it can't be avoided. So when the time has reached, so when we are talking about the biological aspect, we can say that death is just inevitable. We can't prevent it, because in as much as you are aging, the biological function of the body also eventually dies. The cells try and begin to degrade, and due to that degradation, due to that aging, so you eventually die like one or the other day. So according to biological aspect, or according to biology, death is just inevitable. Now let's look at aging. So aging is simply the development of the cells, like the cells that begin to degrade. That is simply aging. So the body changes with aging, because changes occur in individual cells and also in all organs. And the result of aging, or what really causes aging, uh, is simply the cells, they are beginning to degrade. That is the cause of aging, and this could result in the functioning. Like for example, if you had energy, like a person who is young, they're energetic, but once they begin to age, they begin like the cells begin to deteriorate, and in that rationale, maybe they become weak. Yeah, they were running, but they can't run for a long distance. They were playing football, but this time they can't play as they were doing when they were young. So the functioning of the body deteriorates due to aging. Other than that, the appearance changes also. They were this young, yeah, with black hair, but the hair begins to change grayish, or maybe they develop wrinkles. All that is just due to aging. So aging brings about these factors, which are the functioning, deteriorates the function of the body, and also the appearance. Now let's look at what happens to cells as a result of age. So as a person is growing, as they are aging, the cells also decline. So the function of the cells decline. The cells maybe they begin to deteriorate, and also at one point or the other, they begin to die. So this is just really what happens to cells when a person is aging. And we know that according to biology, the cells die, they are programmed to die, in short, by the process of apoptosis. So apoptosis is just a programmed cell death. That is according to the biological aspect. And we know that due to that aging, the organ's performance also begins to deteriorate. So we know that the organ's performance depends on how well the cells function, but in a rationale whereby a person is aging, this organ performance deteriorates, and eventually they decline in the way they were performing. So this is just due to age. Now let's look at age, old age development theory. So old age development theory is a theory of Eric Erikson. So according to Erickson, he says that the central conflict in old age is between the integrity, the sense of satisfaction, and also the reflection of how someone lived their life productively. So, according to this person, Erickson, on the theory of old age development, according to him, he said that when someone is in old age, so they begin to reflect on how they lived their life when they were young, whether they lived it productively, or maybe they didn't live it productively. So that is just the theory. So they begin to reflect on how they are satisfied, if they were satisfied with how they lived their life, or maybe they were in despair, or maybe they faced some challenges in old age. And this is just about expressing their purpose or the meaning of their life. So they begin to talk about the sense of their life and also the purpose, if they lived it productively. And it is just thinking whether maybe it was integrity or maybe the sense of satisfaction on how they were beginning to feel. So that is just the theory. So it's just the conflict between the integrity, the sense of satisfaction, and also people's feeling, reflecting on a life lived, if they were if it were productive or maybe despair, and also the sense that life has little purpose or meaning. So that is the theory of Erickson. And also it also talks about the contentment in old age. So it says that contentment in old age comes only with getting beyond narcissism and into intimacy and generativity. So about this theory, what this point really means is that narcissism is just the feeling of one about oneself, whereby you're just caring about oneself. That is narcissism. Not caring about others, not thinking about others. You're just self-centered. That is narcissism. But according to this theory, there are people when they age, maybe this is a grandmother, and when they get maybe old, when they give them maybe something, they will not just keep it to themselves, but they'll start thinking about their grandchildren. Okay, my grandchild doesn't have this. Instead of them keeping it, if it is food, maybe they'll leave it even maybe for their grandchildren or other people. So they express that contentment when in old age. Then they start thinking about other people, their uh, their maybe grandchildren and their children, instead of just being self-centered or thinking about themselves. So this is all about Erickson. Now let's look at the stages in the process of death. So when a person is dying, there are certain stages which occur, or there are certain steps which begin to arise when a person is dying. So we must first understand the two important terms here: death and dying. So when you're talking about death, it is just the absolute cessation of vital functions. So when the cells die, or maybe they cease their functions, that is death. So it is a complete cessation of the cells, whereby they stop working, they stop operating, the cells stop functioning, and the body is no longer in good state, or the body is now no longer performing its function. That is death. But when you're talking about dying is simply the process of now losing these body functions, whereby the cells begin to deteriorate and all that. That is dying. So you're saying that dying may also be seen as a developmental phase related to living, a part of birth to death continuum. So what this simply means is that when a person is dying, they're just developing in a phase whereby they are now beginning to lose their body functions. That is simply dying. So there are two aspects here. There's good death and also bad death. When you're talking about good death, this is the one which is free from avoidable stress. So that is good death. But the bad death, it is characterized by maybe needless of suffering. Okay. So what we are saying here is that good death is the one which is free from avoidable distress and also suffering for patients, families, caregivers, and also is reasonably consistent with clinical, cultural, and ethical standards. So what we need just to understand here is that good death is that one which is free from avoidable distress or suffering for patients, whereby maybe this person has been ill for quite some time and they can't do anything. So in that state, they'll eventually die. And when they die, maybe there was this sickness which was bothering them for quite some time. So it will be more like an avoidable distress and suffering. Like instead of them suffering or battering this sickness for quite some time and all that, but when they die, it's more like there'll be that relief, like there'll be that avoidable distress and also the longevity of their suffering. So this is simply good death. That when you're talking about bad death, it is the one which is characterized by needless suffering, a dishonoring of patients or family wishes or values and sense among participants or observers that norms of the decency have been offended. So this is bad death. It is just about the needless of suffering and also dishonoring of patients or family wishes and values. Okay, so the stages of death and dying, according to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who was this psychiatrist. So this one, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, also who was a thanatologist, proposed that there are basically 5 stages to death, and these are the first stage. It's denial. So about denial, this is when a person just react with shock. They just can't believe it and they appear confused. Then they begin to ask themselves, this cannot be happening, this maybe cannot happen to me, or this cannot be happening. For example, if maybe the doctor has maybe told them that you've been diagnosed of this cancer disease, and then this person has been eating very well, they've been feeding their body well, they've been doing exercises, and when they hear that, they're just in denial phase. Like they can't believe it because they've been keeping their body quite well, and now this has come about, and they'll be like, no, this can't be happening to me, and it's not possible. So that is simply the denial phase. They just can't believe, and they are just expressing their shock and all that. So that is denial phase. So some may go from hospital to hospital until they find one who supports their position. So this is a situation whereby they have been diagnosed with this sickness, and the doctor has told them, okay, you have this disease, and maybe that disease is very chronic, or maybe they will start thinking, okay, this disease kills many people and they'll be about to maybe die. So they want to believe that, and in the quest for that, they'll try to go maybe to other health facilities. No, they do another test and all that, or maybe it's HIV, HIV and AIDS. Maybe they have HIV, they're HIV positive. Then they can't believe, they'll go to a different hospital, do the same test again. Maybe they tell them the same thing until they try to find maybe somewhere which supports their position. No, this can't be happening to me. I can't be HIV positive and all that. So that is just the denial phase, and usually subsidizes when the person realizes that someone will help them to express feelings while facing their reality. So let's look at the second stage, which happens when a person is dying. So the second stage is now the hunger stage. So after they've been in denial, okay, why me? God, why is this happening to me? And all that. Then they'll now be frustrated. So they become frustrated, uh, irritable, and also angry about their illness. So this is now where they start asking themselves, okay, why this is happening now? Or why is this happening this time and all that? So they begin to now express like their frustrations, like they're frustrated now, they are angry about what has happened to them. So this is the anger stage, and they begin to say, okay, this, it's not fair, God, why have you neglected me and all that. So they express their frustration, and they are irritable. Yeah, that is the second stage. So this anger could be anger against God. They start questioning God. God, why is this happening? I'm going to leave my children and all that suffering. So they can express anger to God, their friends, or even family members. So they begin to be that bitter, frustrated, and all that. And sometimes they might blame themselves or even blame others. Yeah, it's their fault. This is the cause of this and all that. So I remember the nurse representing a picture of health and should be prepared for hostile responses and complaints. So to healthcare givers, maybe in a hospital, and this person is in an anger stage and they are frustrated. So a nurse maybe, or in here a healthcare practitioner might approach them, and they'll just be this bitter because they are in anger stage. They try to tell them about this, they'll just be experiencing or maybe expressing hostile reactions or responses. They're asking them about this, or maybe they ask them to take some medication, but they won't even comply with any medical prescription and all that. So this is the second stage, which is the anger stage. And patients may appear to be difficult, demanding, and grateful. So in a situation whereby they are maybe in a bed, diagnosed of this sickness, and they just try to maybe become that unnecessary difficult, where they ask them to take medication, they can't comply, they ask them to do this test, they can't do it, and they begin to demand things which are not there. They might demand a lot of unnecessary things because of this stage. And in a situation whereby maybe there are these healthcare practitioners offering support, checking up on them and all that, they'll just become ungrateful. They can't appreciate anything. Yeah, maybe the doctor has come, checked on them, they can't even say thank you, but yeah, they'll be just this ungrateful. So patient tries to maintain the image of bravery and serenity. Okay, so nurses who have difficult understanding that hunger is a predictable reaction, and is really a displacement may withdraw from patients or transfer them to care of other units. So in a situation whereby this person, a patient, has become bitter, there are some nurses or maybe healthcare practitioners who might begin to avoid them. For example, if it's in a hospital setting, a nurse would maybe say, okay, on that bed, maybe on bed maybe 14, I won't go there, or maybe this bed, I'll skip it, or maybe I'll tell my friend, my colleague to attend to that patient because this patient is just hostile, is very hungry, frustrated, and they don't just want to comply. So also healthcare practitioners may try to withdraw or maybe refer them to other colleagues. Yes. So we can now look at the third step. So the third step is now bargaining. So bargaining is now just the attempt to negotiate with doctors, nurses, and friends, or even God in return for a cure. So bargaining is now a stage where a patient tries to negotiate. They try to question the doctor. Doctor, is could there be a possible solution, or could there be a possible cure, or could there be a surgery which can help me become better again? So they start to negotiate. They might try begin to ask God, oh God, if you heal me, or if you cure this disease I have, I'll do this and this. I'll be very committed to church and I'll do better. So they're just they are trying to negotiate if there could be a possible way. And sometimes patients could think the medication which they were given maybe is not good enough, and they'll try to be negotiating with the doctor, asking the doctor, could there be any possible medication I'll buy, even if it's expensive, I'll pay, and all that. So this is just a bargaining stage. They're trying to negotiate, and they can promise to fulfill one or many pledges, such as giving to charity and also attending church regularly. So it is a situation whereby maybe this patient uh, was just living this reckless life, and due to that recklessness they have now this sickness. So they'll try to start negotiating with God. God, if you heal me, if you bless me, if you bring me back to normal condition, I won't miss even church. So they're just trying to make those promises, sometimes which, or maybe pledges which they won't even fulfill. So it means that they're just in a bargaining stage. And some patients believe that if they are good, the hospital staff will make them better. So this is just like a belief. They're just trying to negotiate with maybe the doctor, the healthcare practitioners, if there could be any possible way so that they can become better again. So a patient might now begin to say, just one more chance, please. Asking the doctor, asking God, praying to God, if I get better, I'll never miss church again. I promise to take my medication and all that. So that is just the bargaining stage, and they really acknowledges unfinished business. Like in this stage now, they begin to maybe to write a will so that they plan, okay, this is how my properties should be shared, maybe the deeds of the house. Yeah, they start to make funeral arrangements since they have this sickness and it's deteriorating. Then the fourth stage, which now these people experience in death or maybe about to die, experience is the depression. So depression is now about them uh, being in a state of agony. So this is now whereby they're about to lose everyone. They're about to lose their beloved ones. They're about to lose their properties, everything, and they can't see any meaning of life. So they are from a stage of bargaining. Now they are just depressed. They start to withdraw. Yeah. So the patient now who is depressed or who is now in this stress, they're experiencing now stress, they will begin to withdraw, they will begin to have sleep disturbances, they can't sleep well, maybe they are just hopeless now, and sometimes some might even start thinking about maybe committing suicide and all that. So that is depression. They're just depressed and they're in this state. So the depression may be a reaction to the effect of their illness, or maybe they are now anticipating the loss of life. So this is where they were just okay, but they start thinking about the illness. Or maybe they had properties, they start thinking about what they are leaving behind, the houses, the cars, the children, the beloved spouses, and all that. So they do not force treatment on the patient, do not force treatment and on the patient, but in this state, you must support and encourage patients to verbalize feelings, because when they are depressed, some might not even want to talk. They might be this lonely, they might be not wanting to do anything because they are really stressed and they're experiencing this depression. So all people feel some sadness and at the prospect of their own death. So a person who is about to die, a person who is depressed, everyone in this state may feel that sadness because they're about to go. They're about to die. So the sadness comes about due to these feelings, the thoughts which arises, start thinking about everything which is going to happen to them. So studies have shown that some terminally ill patients can delay their death until after a loved one's significant event. And this is very true because, for example, if a patient is in hospital, of course they are dying, they are in a bad state, but you might discover that, and what is happening maybe to their family, a certain person, for example, maybe it could be a wedding celebration uh, for their maybe children and all that. You might find that the wedding celebration will go well. They're just in a hospital, but once that celebration ends, then they'll just hear that the person has died. So, according to studies, this is true. Like it has shown that there is this longevity in death, especially when there's an anticipation of maybe a special event or a significant event of a certain family. So, this is really true. So the fifth step, which is the last step, according to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the last step is acceptance. Okay, this patient has been depressed, they have been bargaining, they have been in anger state, and they will now accept it. So patient achieves an inner and outer peace owing to person victory over fear. So this is now whereby, okay, they have realized, so this is real, this is now happening, so they just have no option but just to accept it, and they'll have that peace of mind, and also personal victory. They are not afraid anymore. Okay, they are. I'm ready now to die. I've finished my business on earth. Now I'm about to go. So there's that acceptance. They might even begin to be happy, like feeling happy. They are no longer getting frustrated about what is happening. They're able to interact with other patients. They're able to talk nicely to healthcare practitioners and all that, because they have accepted now. This is now reality. This is going to happen, and there's no two ways about it. So that is simply the last stage, which a person dying experiences. So just to go through the first step, um, which happens to people who are dying, we said it is denial. And denial, we discussed that this is a stage whereby they can't accept, or maybe they are in disbelief, they're expressing their shock, or why me? Why is this happening? After denial now, the patient become angry, like they are now hungry, so they experience hunger. So the second step, we said it is hunger step or hunger stage. Then the third one, we said it's bargaining. This is where they begin to try to negotiate, asking the doctor, could there be a better way, or if God allows me to maybe be alive for another year, I'll stop what I was doing. I'll stop doing bad things. I'll become a better person. I'll be going to church every day, if it's every Sunday and all that. So they make some promises. If I become better, I'll do this and that. So we said that is the bargaining stage. Then after bargaining stage, we said the first stage is depression, whereby, okay, they have stopped making promises and now they're just in agony, whereby they are frustrated. They are now depressed about everything that is happening. They don't want anyone to talk to them. They're just lonely. They're just quiet. They can't speak. They can't do anything, and they're just in shock, and uh, they can't do anything. So that is the depression stage. And in depression stage, we said that patients become hostile. They become bitter to healthcare practitioners. They try to do this and they won't be complying. So that is just the depression stage. Then the last stage, we said now it is the acceptance stage. So under acceptance, we said a patient now will accept their fate. Okay, this is real. This is now happening, and I'm about to go. So there's that acceptance, and in this stage, they experience or they express victory over fear, and they'll be now satisfied. Okay, I've finished my business on earth, and now it's time to go. Okay, now let's look at the things which happen to a patient. So, one, there is little physical pain and discomfort felt when they accept that, okay, they're about to go, they're about to die. So there's little physical pain and also discomfort which they feel, because at this stage nothing can happen. They have accepted, okay, this is what is happening and it is reality. So I need to accept it. I need to be happy, and I need just to be comfortable. Like in that state now, there's no so much pain, and care by significant others generally meets the physical needs of the dying person. All right. So under acceptance, we say that they accept the universality of the experience, and also patients resolve their feelings about the inevitability of death and can talk about facing the unknown. So they can even maybe call their families saying, okay, I'm about to go now. You must stay in harmony. You must be talking to each other. You must remain in unity. You must not divide. Yeah, you must remain united and all that. So in this stage, it's whereby they have realized that, okay, at this point, death is inevitable. I can't prevent it. No matter what I can do, nothing can happen, and they'll begin to talk about it. Okay, I'm going to die, and this is going to happen. So just remain in peace and all that. So those with strong religious beliefs and the conviction of death after death find comfort in their belief. So sometimes those who are really religious might even begin to find comfort, hope about their belief. For example, what the Bible says after maybe a person dies, the soul maybe rises. Yeah, there will be another life after death. So it's not the end of the world, but there's a better tomorrow, there's a better future coming after judgment. So they begin to find comfort in those beliefs, their religious norms and all that. So they'll just be in this conviction whereby, okay, I'm going to die, but one day after judgment I'll be alive again, and all that. Now the last thing we'll talk about in this session will be the end life care. So what is the care given to these patients? So most people picture living a good life in their past in their last days rather, and devote decades preparing for it. Determine when the time for curative care has ceased. It's our duty to strive to extend life and decrease suffering, but must accept death as a defining characteristic of life. So, what we really mean here is that, according to what people think or how they picture life, they think that living a good life is really in the last days of their living, like in the last days when they're about to die. But they devote their time, their energy, their effort in just preparing it. Okay, they have been studying uh, this entire life. They have been working, and they think that the enjoyment will come at the end, maybe when they are old. Now they start living their life, or they start expressing their satisfaction. They start enjoying life after they have been very hardworking and all that. So that is the perception of most people. But this is but this is defined according to time. So time is what defines. So no matter how they might think, okay, living my last days will be very, or maybe will be better, or living my life, my last days will be happier. But all this time they've been just doing work and all that. So, and this is determined when the time for creative care has ceased. Okay, there's no care given to them, and thoughts like that begin to arise. So, it is our duty now to strive and extend life and decrease suffering, but must accept death as a defining characteristic of life. So, in as much as this patient or maybe the healthcare practitioners might try to care for the patients by providing their needs, giving them proper medication, Also, it is the duty of the patient to accept that, okay, death is just a characteristic which defines life. So they might accept death as a characteristic definition of life. So they have been living, now it's time to die. So they must also have that perception. So relief from pain and other troubling symptoms, such as reducing fear, involving in the discussions about their care, and also a sense of completion and relief of any burdens on family and friends. So after they have accepted now, they must also have that perception that, okay, I've completed my work, have done what I could during my time I was alive. Now it's time to go. And maybe they have been suffering with this sickness. They might maybe try to think about, okay, my family has spent so much on me, on medication, on caregiving and all this. Now I must relieve this burden from them by dying or by resting now in eternal peace and all that. So, in as much as they are accepting what is the reality now, they might share knowledge that the end is near, and also allow patients to vent the feelings of irritation, help patients maintain. So this is what the healthcare practitioners must now do to patients. Like in the in their end times, the care they must render to the patients. So one, it is autonomy. So autonomy, it is just allowing the patient to make their own decisions. For example, instead of imposing a certain decision on a patient, you must try to give options to the patient so that they might maybe be able to choose or to make a decision by themselves. In an instance whereby there's maybe this patient who is ill, instead of just saying, for this kind of illness, we are going to perform a surgery, you must let them decide, okay, these are the options. It's either we go for a surgery, yeah, maybe they remove this lump, or maybe they remove this tumor, or maybe we amputate maybe the hand or the leg and all that. So you must let the patient be able to make their own decision. There must be that autonomy. Patient must be able to express their own decision, to say, okay, this is what I want, okay, do this, and not just impose decisions on them. And also healthcare practitioners must offer security. So in as much as healthcare practitioners offering that security, even their family members, they must be there by the bedside, offering this security, the safety, and also self-confidence. Like they must help these patients not just to be depressed, to remain in that depressed state, but also to have that good esteem, to have that confidence, so that they're able to think properly and also make their own decisions. And also there must be that dignity. In as much as this patient is in a bed, healthcare practitioners must also show some dignity. They're dealing with a human being, they're dealing with the life. So maybe a nurse or a doctor can't just come and dress a patient and all that, start doing whatever they want to do, no. But there must be that dignity. Okay, this is a person, so dignity should not be should not be given away at the expense of someone's maybe sickness and all that. So there must be respect. They must respect the patient and also accord the right right treatment or right consideration which they deserve, because they are really human beings. So this really marks the end of this session. Thank you.